Good evening on the Empty Skull Ranch. Working on a late night project today. A late night project, all right. Let's see what we have in store, shall we? All right. This little guy cooking in there. Aiming to make it kind of a meat cleaver, you know. Made one before. This one is going to go up for sale, so we'll see how well it comes out. So let's start pounding. Alrighty. On the bevel right now, you can see. Hopefully she comes out all right. I made one of these not too long ago, and I tell you, I've used it to cut through racks of ribs, spine included. Cuts through bone like a razor blade, and right after you can cut up a tomato with it. So hopefully it's all in the heat treat. It's all in the heat treat. There's a piece of leaf spring, really nice steel. That's from the 59 Oldsmobile, back when steel was real steel. So, let's see how we're doing in the cooker here. On its second or third heat right now. Basically just did a slash cut on the end with a clip point. That's why I call it a clip point, because it comes to a kind of a clip. And then just cut out the tang, and let's see where we're going with it. Kind of do a little bit of a shorter handle on the meat cleavers, you know, just something you can use around the kitchen. So, without further ado, it's looking like it's ready for another pounding. See the steel from these leaf springs, very hard. Semi-molten state. So I'll continue working on that. So it's a lot of them 80s in there. So I'm gonna bang it a few more times and call you guys back and see how it's looking. Alrighty. Well, switched over to my cross peen hammer, my old-time favorite. This is about a 2.5 pounder. The hand sledge I was just using is about a 3 pounder. Believe it or not, that half a pound goes a long way when you're swinging a hammer. So let's take this guy out and see how she's looking. It's getting there. Just working out the bevel. So, flip it over, rinse, and repeat. Try to get the little clip down in the bottom here on the next one, if I can get it hot enough. Show you how to do that. Stick it a little deeper in there so that it gets a more uniform heat. So basically what we're going to do, we're going to pull that out. That's about 3/4 of an inch, about maybe half an inch where I'm going to put the ricasso is going to be where the blade profile ends. And basically to do that, you got to hang it over the edge of the anvil and strike half on, half off. So you're kind of hitting like that. And in doing so, you're creating that crease for the end of the blade profile where the bevel ends. So once this is roughed up pretty good, I'll get it to the point, then normalize it, stick it out, let it dry, cool down in plain air. That means all the little molecules in the steel and all the little stuff that's been used to being a leaf spring for the last 60 some odd years is gonna get used to its new shape with the bevel. We're not really working it all that hard, you know, like making Damascus where you're completely disrupting that steel's life. It's it's still relatively straight. So you're just getting it used to having a bevel in it. So basically, bring it up to temp, let it cool. But you can also take it and stick it in vermiculite to prolong that cooling. It's called annealing, to kind of prolong that cooling period so that it takes even longer, so that it kind of helps the normalizing process. So let's see how it's looking. I think it's hot enough. So I'm going to stick it right about here. And there we go. So I have to pound that back in. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Rinse and repeat on the other side as well. Do this enough times, you get a nice, definite place for your bevel to end. It gives you kind of a guide too when you're grinding on it. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but we'll get it back in the cooker a little longer. Do it again, just to get that thing completely in there. Let's see how it's looking now. Basically showed you how to do that bevel in, and just basically what we're doing is working the steel out. We're like fanning it out, like holding a handful of cards and you do the display. This is kind of what we're doing right here, except on steel. We're getting the more it works out on here, the more it arches back that clip. Gives it the iconic Mick Dundee knife look, you know, the iconic shape of the Bowie knife. Actually is looking like it's going to be more of a Bowie knife than a meat cleaver to me. So, either way, I don't mind. That's my specialty. I like making Bowie knives. You can see, just working on making that nice and straight. And also making the rest of this nice and straight. Just kind of work it. Going. This thicker steel is a lot more forgiving than, let's say you're doing something a little bit more finite, like a straight razor or something like that, then you really got to worry about that heat. But nonetheless, it's always risk of failure at any point during this process. So you could be working on something for hours, days even, and then you go to do the last final touch, and something goes wrong. So, a lot of heartache involved in doing this stuff, especially if you're working on something that's really, really important and you really want to make sure that it comes out perfect. It's always those last crucial moments. It can happen anytime during the forging. It can happen when you're quenching. It can happen when you're finishing the thing up on a bench grinder. If it's a straight razor, All it takes is just dropping it, and then the edge shatters, and your whole project is lost. So, always be mindful of that. Don't get too attached to a project until you know it's done. So, we'll work out the last bits of this bevel here. I like to leave some of the hammer marks in it when I'm done. Gives it that hand forged type of look. You know, it's not for everybody, but I kind of like it. That's looking like it's pretty close. So, what I'm going to do now is just fine-tune the overall profile. Let's make sure that we're flat all the way through. We don't have any twists or wonks in the blade, but that's looking pretty decent, actually. Pretty decent. Throw it in for one more heat and one more little tweak on that edge, because there's a little hook out at the end of it, right at the tip. Just the tip, though. So we'll see how it comes out. Next step will be bench grinding. All right, pull that out, kind of give you this view of it, so you can see the last bits of it. Here it is. All right. Just going over, making sure that bevel is straight, that blade is straight. Definitely feel the heat coming off of that. Beautiful. Now I'm going to take it, lay it across the anvil like so, and see if there's some spots that it wants to favor. Wants to lift up off the anvil as I'm hammering on it. If it doesn't, then it's pretty close to being straight, I'd say. Little curvature right there. Take it and hold it like this. Looks good as it's going to be. Maybe one more for the flush. And I'd say it's about straight. Now to give a view of the blade, the bevel, if it's good. It's going to be a little crude looking right here because it's doesn't have all the refinements done yet, but I'd say that's pretty close. Looking at it from this angle, follow the blade all the way down. Looking at it from the back. You can see that bevel in it on both sides. That's only going to get refined when I throw it on this guy, that guy, and that guy. Well, getting a little cooler now. As you can see, the forge is still ripping, but it'll have that color, that kind of like a pewter type of look to it, with the all that slag on the outside of it. That's going to get filed down when it gets put on the belts and on the wheel. But so, like I said earlier, I'm going to do the normalizing process right now. So just letting it cool in plain, still air. Not trying to make it cool down in any way, just letting it do it on its own. And as I said too, the only thing really different about this steel right now is it's fanned out. So it's kind of got that shape to it. So it's a little bit more fanned, and it's got a bevel, and it's got that little clip right before the ricasso. So that's basically, I think this normalizing process right here should be sufficient. I'd like to do it, something that I do a little bit more manipulating on and more tooling on, heat it up about 2 or 3, maybe even 4 times, depending on how much I've had to manipulate the steel to get it into the shape that it's in. But on this one, I think a single normalizing period should be good enough. And then when we come back, we are going to do the bench time. So I think I'm going to do this video in
segments. So this will be part 1, the forging and beveling. And when I start the grinding, that'll be part 2. Alrighty. See you guys next time on the Empty Skull Ranch.